Greetings folks, welcome. In this video I'm going to show you how to make a cross-tabulation table in Excel. Before we get started, I need to remind you of a couple caveats that I always go through when we're working in Excel. The first caveat is, of course, different versions of Excel are going to look different. I'm using Excel on a MacBook Pro, but if you had an Excel, say, on a PC, things might look just a little bit different on your screen. And second, there are different ways of doing things in Excel. The steps that I'm going to go through I think are really good for a beginner who's just learning the material, but a more advanced user might have different ways of accomplishing the same tasks. A cross-tabulation table is used to look at the relationship between two variables. So we typically show one variable across the columns and a second variable down the rows. And what's nice about a cross-tabulation table is you can use quantitative or categorical variables. The application that we're going to look at is the relationship between celebrity type and the number of Instagram followers. So of course, celebrity type is a categorical variable. And when we look at the data set, you'll see that it's coded as follows. So actors are coded as 1, athletes are coded as 2, comedians are coded as 3, entrepreneurs are coded as 4. That'd be somebody like Mark Cuban. A musician is coded as 5. Reality TV celebrity would be coded as 6. And then other types of celebrities are coded as a 7. The number of Instagram followers is a quantitative variable, and this variable ranges from fewer than 10,000 followers to over 140 million followers. And some of the celebrities at the top of the list with the most followers are people like Selena Gomez, Justin Bieber, also known as the Biebs, and T-Swizzle. So before we jump into Excel, I think it's really important to make a shell of actually what we're going to try to accomplish in Excel. So here's the start of a cross-tabulation table. Down the first column, you see the celebrity type. So you see actor, athlete, comedian, etc. And across that top row, you see the number of Instagram followers. You see less than 10 million, 10 to 50 million, and over 50 million followers. And I chose to use 3 classes here. We could have used 4 or 5, but I just thought 3 would look good on this cross-tabulation table. So when we jump into Excel, we're going to use the Countifs formula. And Countifs counts the number of observations that meet multiple criteria. So for instance, let's say we wanted a count of the number of actors with fewer than 10 million followers. We'd count the number of observations where the celebrity type is equal to 1, because remember 1 corresponds with actors, and then the number of followers is less than 10 million. So let's say the celebrity type variable is in the third column, which is column C, and the number of Instagram followers is in the fourth column, which is column D. And let's say we have 150 observations, and they start in the second row and go down to the 151st row. So here's how you use the Countifs formula. Equals Countifs, parenthesis, C2 colon C151, comma 1. So here we're telling Excel we want to go into the C column and tell us how many celebrity types equal 1, which would be actors, comma D2 colon D151, comma, quotation mark, and yes, the quotation mark is important here, less than 10 million. Close quotation mark, and then close parenthesis. In the second part of the formula, we're telling Excel we want you to go into the D column, which is where we have the number of followers, and tell us how many are less than 10 million. Now, what if we wanted to know the number of actors that have between 10 and 50 million Instagram followers? We'd still use the Countifs formula. It's just going to look a little bit different. So here we'd use equals Countifs, parenthesis, C2 colon C151, comma 1. This is exactly how it looked before. We're counting up the number of observations where the celebrity type is 1, which is actors. And then it's D2 colon D151, comma, quotation mark, greater than 9,999,999, close a quotation mark, then a comma, then D2 colon D151, comma, quotation mark, less than 50,000,001, close quotation mark, close parenthesis. So here in the second part of the formula, we're telling Excel we want to know how many observations have between 10 and 50 million. So that would be greater than 9,999,999 and less than 50,000,001. All right, so if you know how to use these Countifs formula, what we're going to do in Excel should be pretty straightforward, and I'll see you there in a sec. All right, folks, so welcome to the Excel spreadsheet. Here we have a small data set on celebrities and their Instagram following. Here I'm working with a little bit smaller data set than I used in some other videos. We have 150 celebrities. So here we have the ID number. This is just so I can keep track of who's who. Here we have the age of the celebrity and the celebrity type. Again, this is a categorical variable. You see it coded as 1 equals actor, 2 equals athlete, 3 is comedian, 4 entrepreneur, 5 musician, 6 reality entertainment, and 7 is other. And here we have the number of Instagram followers as of the fall of 2018. So if you just sort of look at the data set, you see here's a celebrity. It's a 63-year-old other with under 20,000, actually under 18,000 Instagram followers. So that's one of the least popular celebrities we have, at least in terms of their Instagram following. And you scroll down here. Here's one with 115 million followers. Here's one with 129 million. So anyway, so you can kind of get a sense of what we're working with here. So over here we have the shell for the cross-tabulation table we're going to make in a second. You see the categories of celebrities, actors, athletes, comedians, etc. And across the top row here, we have 3 classes for the ranges of Instagram followers. And you'll notice in the F column, I actually put the numbers for the way that these categories are coded. And this will be useful here in a second. So let's start filling out the cells in our cross-tabulation table. For this first cell, we want to count the number of actors with less than 10 million Instagram followers. So we'll use the Countifs formula, equals Countifs. And of course, the celebrity type is in the C column. So we'll do C:(C) here. Of course, we could do C2:C151. But I think it's a little bit easier just to say, hey, let's just count the entire C column, comma. But instead of putting a 1 here, which would count the number of actors in column C, I'm actually going to click on the cell F2. And this is still telling Excel we want it to count in the C column and tell us the number of observations that are equal to 1. And that's because the number 1 happens to be in cell F2. And you'll see in a second where this will actually be a little bit of a shortcut. And then we'll say D:(D), because this is also telling Excel we want to look in the D column and tell us how many have a value of less than 10 million. 10, 1, 1, 1, that's 10 million. Close the parenthesis. And there are 35 observations in the data set that are actors with less than 10 million Instagram followers. Let's move over to this next cell here. Equals Countifs. Countifs. C:(C), comma. Again, the value that's in F2 happens to be the number 1. Now for this one, I'm going to have to concentrate. It's a little bit tricky. This is D, and this is greater than 9,999,999. And then D less than 50,000,001. So there are 6 celebrities in our data set that are actors with between 10 and 50 million Instagram followers. And now for over 50 million, equals Countifs. C equals 1, which is the value that's in F2. And then D greater than 50 million. All right, so there are 2 actors with over 50 million Instagram followers. I'm actually going to show you a shortcut that will save you a lot of time, and that is we can copy the formulas in these 3 cells and actually paste them in the cells below, and it will actually update the values to what we want here. And the reason for this is because Excel is based on a relative address. So in this cell right here, it's counting the number of actors with less than 10 million. When I go and copy this cell into the cells below it, it'll update it and it'll count the number of athletes, comedians, entrepreneurs, musicians, reality TV stars, and other celebrities with less than 10 million. And that's because when we actually put in this formula, we told Excel to count the number of observations in the C column that are equal to what's in cell F2. When we go and copy and paste this formula, it'll update that from F2 to F3 to F4 to F5, etc. So let's copy this formula. And voila, it updated it. So this formula right here is now counting the number of observations in the C column that are equal to F3, which is the number 2, which corresponds with athletes. And this one here, and the formula in this cell, is counting the number of observations in the C column that are equal to 3, because that's in cell F4. We can update the rest of the cells in our cross-tabulation table. And there you have it. This is a cross-tabulation table that shows the relationship between celebrity type and the number of Instagram followers. Now we can convert this cross-tabulation table from counts to percentages. And just for fun, we will add across the rows here. Equals sum. I want it to sum H, I, and J2. This tells us that we have 43 actors. I can copy and paste this formula. We've got 34 athletes, 9 comedians, 9 entrepreneurs, 34 musicians, etc. And we will copy and paste all of this. Now, of course, these cells here in the middle of the table are going to get all messed up. Yep, they all turn to zeros. The reason all these counts went away is because, of course, Excel is based on a relative address. So now we're asking Excel to look in the C column and count the number of observations that are equal to the value that's in cell F12. And of course, there's no value here. And if I put a number 1 here, it'll count them. Or if I put a number 2 here, it'll count them, right? But right now, we're not trying to do that. The reason I copied the cross-tabulation table is that I just want it to have a shell for calculating the percentages. So I'm going to tell Excel I want it to take the value that's in H2 and divide it by the value that's in K2. And I need to put a $sign in front of K2. And that's because when I copy and paste this formula, I want it to freeze the value that's in K2. So copy and paste, copy and paste. And now I can copy and paste the formulas that are in these 3 cells through the rest of the table. So here you have it. Now we've converted the values from counts to percentages. Just one final touch is I will change the formatting. So now they look like percentages. So to wrap things up, let's take this cross-tabulation table and make a nice picture. So I will grab everything here in the table and go over to Insert. And they give you some suggestions for charts. So I'll click on Recommended Charts. And there's a clustered bar chart, and then there's a stacked bar chart. I'll go with a clustered bar chart. See what that looks like. All right, not too bad. So, as always, I like to move the chart into its own sheet. I just think it's easier to actually make some changes. All right, so here we have it. I'm going to increase the font size. All right, that's pretty big there. I will increase the font size of the labels of celebrity type. All right, and I will increase the font size down here just so everything's easier to read. All right, not bad. And then I will give the chart a nice descriptive title. So let's change the font size here if we can. We'll call it celebrity type, and Instagram followers, n equals 150, and let's label the axis here. So we'll go to chart design and say we'll add a chart element. We'll say axis title. We'll put it on the vertical. Let's increase the font size here. And we'll label this as percentage of celebs by number of followers. So here's our clustered bar chart. You see 3 bars clustered for actors, athletes, comedians, entrepreneurs, musicians, reality TV stars, and other. And you see for actors that just over 80% of the celebrities that are actors have less than 10 million followers. A little bit, it looks like it's about between 10 and 20% have between 10 and 50 million followers. And looks like maybe 3 or 4% of the celebrities that are actors have over 50 million Instagram followers. If you go over to, say, musicians, about between 60 and 70% of the musicians have fewer than 10 million Instagram followers. About 20% have 10 to 50 million Instagram followers. Oh, and it looks like about 15% of the celebrities that are musicians have over 50 million Instagram followers. This would be people like the Biebs, Justin Bieber, Taylor Swift, also known as T-Swizzle.